DreAllDay.com.
You are now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques, all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called work on your game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is how to stop settling. How can you stop settling? In the context of today's episode, actually, before I get into that, first of all, let me tell everybody I have a daily motivation text that I send out every single day, free of charge, to everyone who is in my texting community. You can get in my community for free. All you got to do is send me a text message to my text number. It's the same number you should save in your phone because this is where I'll be texting you from. Here's the number, 305-384-6894. Send a text to that number right now. And every day when I send my daily motivation text, you will be receiving it free of charge, guaranteed to keep you focused, sharp, and on point. Now, this topic here today is how to stop settling. So in the context of today's episode, I'm using settling to mean compromising and accepting less than what you actually wanted based on some amount of rationalization you have done in your own mind. In other words, you have a goal of something that you want, but then you craft some story in your mind that causes you to accept less than you wanted. And today we're going to talk about how you can stop crafting those stories that are causing you to accept less than what you want, or causing you to show up as less than who you are, which is leading to you underperforming, like we talked about in yesterday's episode on fearlessness. And so that you can stop making it okay. You can stop accepting less than what you want. You can stop feeling like you're settling in life, and you can start getting what you actually want. Does that sound like a fair proposition? Does that sound like something that anyone in my audience wants to sign up for? If so, turn the volume up, get something to take notes with, and remove distractions, and listen up to what we're going to talk about here today. Point number one, today's topic, once again, is how to stop settling. Number one, decide on your non-negotiables. This is something that has come up over and over and over again in the last couple months here on this show, and from different points, whether we're talking about productivity, we're talking about eliminating distraction, we're talking about focus, we're talking about fearlessness, we're talking about goal setting, we're talking about achieving what you want in life. We're talking about it again here today when we're talking how to stop settling is non-negotiables. When we talk about setting your standards in life, that episode, what are your non-negotiables? What are they for you? Do you have any non-negotiables? Many of you don't have any non-negotiables, and this is why you have no choice but to settle, because everything you're doing is settling, because you don't have anything that's a standard. If you have no standard, you can't have non-negotiables. So I want everyone listening to me right now, I want you to think about, what are your standards? Episode 1331, I told you never lower the bar of your standards. Episode 1291, how to raise the standards of a group. Episode 1026, your standard is the best that you can do. Episode 2097, I told you that standards still matter. And in episode 1974, that standards are the enemy of mediocrity. What are your standards? Your non-negotiables are the things that are standards that you are not wavering on, meaning there is no wiggle room. If a standard is everybody be here at 8 a.m., there's no wiggle room to get there at 8:15. There's no wiggle room, okay, today we're going to do it at 9 o'clock. No, the standard is this is what it is, and there is no maybe this, there is no exception that. No, it's a standard. What are your non-negotiables? Do you know what they are? Have you set them for yourself? Understand that there are some areas of your life in which you are going to settle, compromise, and accept less than what you want. And I want you to understand that this is actually fine, because not every area of your life is a priority area. There are some areas of your life where you are going to accept less than what you want, and that's okay, because that area is not a priority. It doesn't have to be perfect there. And listen, you have to remember that in life, there are no perfect scenarios. There are only trade-offs. You just have to decide in life, what are you going to trade off? We just talked about this in episode 2174 a couple weeks back. There are no perfect scenarios, only trade-offs. So you're going to decide what areas of your life do you have non-negotiables, that you have standards that will not be wavered upon, and in exchange for those standards always being hit, you're willing to compromise in these other areas. This is the way life works. All right? There is no utopian life or any utopian society in anywhere in the world for any individual or group where everything is perfect exactly as they want it. So you have to decide which ones am I not compromising on, and which ones am I willing to compromise on. This is a decision decision, people, that you have to make. So you don't need everything to be perfect everywhere in life, but there are certain areas in which you do want things a certain way and you are not okay with settling. What are those areas for you? That's the question. Just like we talked about in the episode on clarity, you need to know what these areas are, understand what you are unwilling to compromise on before you get into any situation in these particular spaces. Know what you are unwilling to compromise on. This is very important. So what are your priority areas and what are your non-negotiables in those areas? So it's not just having priorities, but knowing what the non-negotiables are. So knowing how far you can waver, how far you're willing to bend, and how far you're not willing to bend. All right. The number one thing you need in any negotiation is leverage. You need to know how far you can go and how far you can't go so that you know how to respond when the other side doesn't quite do what you want them to do. Point number 2, today's topic once again is how to stop settling. Number 2, start with the person in the mirror. See, a lot of people, when they think about this word settling, you think about doing things for other people or accepting something from somebody that you didn't really want, or something that involves some type of social engagement, something that involves you dealing with other people. When people think about settling, it's usually what they think about, what everybody else is doing or asking you to do or wanting you to do, and you being okay with it. But I want you to understand something. You can't have non-negotiables or standards for others when you don't even enforce non-negotiables and standards upon yourself. So let's back up here before we get to talking about your engagements with others. Let's talk about you. Where are you non-negotiable with yourself? What standards do you have for yourself, and how rigidly and how consistently are you upholding those standards for yourself? If you can't discipline you, you can't discipline anyone else. So what are you non-negotiable about when it comes to yourself? What do you say, okay, this one, I actually have to get this done. I know I'm tired. I know it's late. I know it's early. I know I don't feel like it, but I'm non-negotiable about this. This absolutely has to get done. In what areas of your life are you non-negotiable? Those are the areas in which it's easy for you to hold other people accountable because you're non-negotiable. People can see it. They can see right through you and know you're non-negotiable in that area, so they will be non-negotiable. Or they'll find their exit and get the hell out of there because they don't want to be held to a standard. But if you're not being disciplined with yourself, you can't make other people be disciplined with you. So when it comes to your personal life, where are you non-negotiable? What about in your career? What about your fitness? What about your nutrition? Your finances, your family, your wardrobe, your hygiene? Where do you not allow yourself to cut corners? Where do you say, all right, this absolutely has to be done this way? Where do you personally make sure things get done, and they must get done a certain way, even if that means holding yourself to a certain high standard that's not always so easy to hit, not always so easy to reach? What are those areas for you? Do you have any of those areas? Are you upholding standards with yourself? Do you hold yourself to account on certain standards that all right, we got to get things done here in this area because anything less is not acceptable? So let me give you a little hint based on this second point. The more accountable you are able to hold yourself, the more accountable you become eligible to hold others. So I told you just back in episode 2172 that accountability is the double-edged sword, that the more you hold anyone accountable, you also have to make sure you're holding yourself accountable. I also talked about this in episode 1793, holding yourself and others accountable without beating yourself up or beating them up. Episode 1385, earning your right to hold people accountable. Episode 765, closing your accountability gaps. All of these things matter. So how much are you holding yourself to certain standards? Because the more you do it, the more you can do it for, with, and to other people. So start with the person in the mirror when it comes to settling. All right, don't think that you're settling for or with another person. If you can look at yourself in the mirror and know that you're settling with yourself every single day, then you're not actually settling. What you're getting is exactly what you deserve. You're getting who you are. Because we know the principle is be, do, have, right? So whoever you're being, that leads to what you're doing, that leads to what you have. So if you're being a person who is willing to settle with yourself, you're willing to be compromising with yourself, then you can't look at another person and say, well, this person's not up to standards. I'm settling to do business with them. I'm settling to be with them. I'm settling to agree to whatever they're asking for, when you settle with yourself every single day. So you're not actually settling. What you're doing is getting exactly who you are. So you got to check yourself before you check anybody else. Point number 3, Today's topic, once again, is how to stop settling. Number 3, be fearless. We just talked about this in yesterday's episode. The main reason people settle in life is not because they can't get what they want. And when I say settling, again, we're talking about with yourself as well as with others. Main reason people settle is not because they can't get what they want. It's because they are afraid of asking for what they really want. It's not because they're afraid of asking for what they really want. It's because they're afraid of asking for. Let me back up again here. Main reason people settle is not because they can't get what they want, is because they are afraid of asking for what they want. So they compromise without even attempting to negotiate or ask for it. This is what many people do. They compromise and just say, all right, I'll just settle for this that I have right here, the default setting, instead of asking for or aiming for or planning for or going for what you actually want. Many people never even try to get what they want, meaning they never ask, they never find out if it's available, they never make an attempt to achieve it or acquire it or get it because they are afraid that they won't get it, or they're afraid that going after it will lead to something that's going to make them uncomfortable. Whether it's a question, whether it's a standard that they'll have to live up to, whether it's a requirement, whether it's ridicule, whether it's attack, whether who knows what it is. Many people never even try to get what they want in life. They say they want a certain thing, but they never made an attempt to actually get it because of the fear that is holding them back from even trying, let alone do they try and fail. Most people who come up short in life did not try to get it and fail to get it. Most people who come up short in life never tried to get it, therefore they never got it, and they have quote unquote settled for something, but they didn't really settle, because you're only settling if you try to get to a level 10 and you end up at a level 8 and you decide to stay there. That's settling. When you try to get to 10, you end up at an 8, you stay there. If you never tried to get to 10, you tried to get to 8 and you ended up at 8, and you're looking up at the 10 and you know you want the 10, but you never tried, you didn't settle. You got exactly what you asked for. So my question to you is, are you really settling, or are you just staying where you're at? Because those are two different things. It's not settling if you never went after it. It's settling if you say, all right, I want 10 of these, but you get 5, and then you say, all right, I'm gonna just be happy with 5. I'm gonna just make myself happy with 5. That's settling. If you said you wanted 10, if you went after the 10. Now, if you never went after the 10 and somebody handed you 5, and in your mind you wanted 10, but you never asked for it, you never tried, you never submitted, you never made any move to get to the 10, and you ended up with the 5, okay, now that's not settling. That's just, okay, you are who you are. Now, you can say whatever you want to say, all right? Your actions tell us who you really are. Your actions tell you who you really are. So being fearless means losing your fear of going after what you really want, even if you end up not getting it. Many people don't go after stuff, again, because of their fear of what's going to happen when they try to get it, or if they try and fail to get it. Maybe it's the ridicule, maybe you're going to beat yourself up, maybe the negative things they'll say to you, who knows. Main reason people settle has nothing to do with their lack of ability, is a lack of trying to get it. They compromise without ever attempting to negotiate, without ever attempting to ask, without ever attempting to reach for the thing that they want. So they settle for less without asking for anything more than that less. So they say they're settling for less, but they're actually not. They are less because that's what you accepted. I talked about this in the episode on the 3 ways that people make money, episode 915. There's 3 levels. You can accept, you can negotiate, and you can demand. Now, if someone offers you something and you just accept it, then you are at the acceptance level. If you have a price set in your head and someone offers to negotiate and you negotiate, you're at the negotiation level. When you demand it and you don't settle on anything less than what you demanded, then you're at the demand level. Many people want to be at the demand level, but then they go negotiate. So you're not at the demand level until you stop negotiating. This is the way that it works. The negotiate level is you go back and forth, you throw something out, they throw something out, y'all go back and forth and y'all settle on something. The demand level is you tell people what it is and they either meet it or they don't. That's the demand level. There is no wavering. Do you understand when I talk about standards? This is what I mean. So don't say that you're settling for something if you never try for anything more, because you are technically not. The more focused you can be on what you want, the more definite you can be and fearless you can be going after what you want, the more willing you will be to ask for what you want. And what you will find out is that it's a lot easier to get it than you thought when you're willing to go after it. So what you got to do is start asking for what you want with an expectation that you can and will get it. And here's what's going to happen, folks. You will be surprised at how often you do. But you have to be willing to ask for it. Nobody can make you ask for something that you don't have the courage to ask for it. So this is a decision that you have to make internally. With all of this said, let's recap today's class, which is how to stop settling. And what we're talking about here today is I'm talking about compromising and accepting less than what you actually want based on some amount of rationalization you are doing in your own mind. How to stop crafting stories is today's topic. How to stop making it okay to accept less than what you want. Number one, decide on your non-negotiables. There are some areas in life in which you will settle, compromise, accept less than what you want, which is fine because not every area of your life is a priority area, but you do need to decide what the areas of priority are, like we talked about in the episode on clarity. What are the areas in which you do not wish to negotiate? Point number two, start with the person in the mirror. You can't have non-negotiables dealing with others if you don't have non-negotiables dealing with yourself. So what are your non-negotiables when it comes to you, your career, your family, your nutrition, your fitness? A hint for this, the more accountable you are able to hold yourself, the more accountable you can hold others, and the more willing they will be to be held accountable when they know that you are holding up your end of the bargain. Point number three, be fearless. We talked about this in yesterday's episode. The main reason people settle is not because they can't get something, is because they're afraid of asking for it. So they compromise without ever asking in the first place. So they're really, it's not actually a compromise. What they're doing is just accepting something. They're at the acceptance level like we talked about in episode 915. The more fearless you can be, the more willing you will be to ask for and go after what you want. And often you will find out it was much easier to acquire than you thought it was. And you'll be surprised how often you get stuff when you're willing to actually go after it. Many people stop themselves before they even try going after something, and this is why they end up not getting it. So with all that said, two things for you to do now. First of all, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com, join my mastermind so you can work with me directly. Again, that's at workonyourgameuniversity.com, and text me so you can get my daily motivation text at 305-384-6894. Work on your game. Dre all day.